Hardly anyone hasn't heard of Brazil. Even if you've never set foot in the country, chances are you've heard of it, especially when the name Ronaldinho, the football legend, comes up. Brazil is a vast country in South America, famous across the globe. Along with Argentina, it's one of the most visited and prominent nations on the continent. Travelers flock here to enjoy affordable food, dive into the vibrant nightlife, and explore the country's rich cultural diversity. There are two cities in particular that truly capture the spirit of Brazil: São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. Although the country spans an enormous 8.5 million square kilometers, most visitors are drawn to these two urban hubs. Let's kick off our journey through Brazil together. Drop a 1 in the comments to get started. First up is São Paulo, a city with a population of around 10 million people. However, if you include the greater São Paulo metropolitan area, that number rises to approximately 21.5 million. It's not only one of the largest cities in South America, but it also ranks among the top 5 most populous cities in the world. To put that in perspective, cities with even larger populations include Shanghai, China, New Delhi, India, and Tokyo, Japan, which has an astounding 38 million residents. With such a massive population, São Paulo offers no shortage of interesting topics. From some of the most dangerous streets to the wildest parties in Brazil. If you're wondering where this city is located, São Paulo sits in the easternmost part of the country. Brazil, being an extremely large nation, is divided into states, much like the United States. São Paulo is the capital of the state of São Paulo. It serves as a major financial, commercial, and industrial hub of South America. The state even has its own flag. Although the city isn't directly on the coast, it lies very close to the ocean. While it may not be as internationally famous as Rio de Janeiro, São Paulo is still one of the most talked about cities in Brazil, second only to Rio. From above, the city is quite impressive, with rivers running through it and numerous high-rise office buildings. Traffic can get quite heavy, especially around midday when people are constantly on the move. The city's architecture shows strong Spanish and Portuguese influences. São Paulo enjoys warm weather all year round, so it's common to see people dressed casually in public squares. This is completely normal, as Brazil has no restrictions on how people move around in that regard, allowing them the freedom to roam the streets as they please. The city is always filled with music and dancing. Even on cloudy days, locals in São Paulo don't let the weather bring them down. Even though the national economy might not be booming, people here still find joy in life, no matter what the weather is like. You'll see folks engaging in all kinds of activities, always in search of something fun to do. If you visit alone and have around $300 to spend, you'll find it easy to make friends in these lively spaces. In São Paulo, people generally have a laid-back mindset, and they prioritize personal enjoyment. They carry themselves with high self-esteem and are comfortable in their own skin. If you look closely at Brazilian faces, you'll notice that many people have lighter complexions, largely due to the heavy influx of European immigrants, especially from Italy, Portugal, and Spain, which has greatly influenced the country's genetic makeup. As a result, it's fair to say that many Brazilians bear a strong resemblance to Europeans. The streets in this city are remarkably clean, and despite the crowds, São Paulo isn't just about football. The place is full of life. The walls of many buildings are covered in graffiti, often expressing messages that protest the high cost of living. People here don't like staying indoors. They're out and about, often until late at night. Football is life here. Especially when São Paulo's team plays, it's easy to see tens of thousands of Brazilians gathering at local venues to watch the match. The average monthly income in this city ranges from $1,100 to $2,000. If you're thinking about moving to Brazil to make money, even a major city like São Paulo might leave you disappointed. On the flip side, rent in the city can go as high as 5,000 Brazilian reais, which is roughly $1,000. Because of these housing costs, it's usually immigrants from Europe or the US who are able to afford living here. Additionally, due to low purchasing power in Brazil, travelers from countries like the United States can enjoy luxuries in São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro that many locals simply can't afford. Fortunately, public hospitals in Brazil offer free health care for those with permanent residency, which is a huge benefit, especially when compared to the high cost of health care in many other countries. It's also worth noting that red meat is incredibly popular in Brazil. The asado craze you see in Argentina is just as big here. Even with the high cost of living, Brazilians' love for red meat remains strong. That said, English is not widely spoken. So, if you plan to live in Brazil's major cities, learning Portuguese is essential. One of the most enjoyable things about both São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro is how friendly, open, and honest most people are. Even though the economy isn't thriving, the general attitude toward foreigners remains largely positive. To gain a better understanding of these two cities, it's also important to acknowledge their drawbacks. Brazil's economy and its average monthly wages are not particularly impressive, and São Paulo is especially impacted by these economic challenges. The national minimum wage is around $260 per month, and as of the first quarter of 2024, the unemployment rate has risen to approximately 7.9%. In cities like São Paulo, residents face very high taxes, which significantly limits their purchasing power. For example, the iPhone 17, which starts at around $799 in the United States, is sold in Brazil for 7,999 Brazilian reais, roughly $1,494. This steep markup is mainly due to a combination of import taxes, federal taxes, state-level taxes, ICMS, and industrial taxes, IPI. In fact, Brazil is the most expensive country in the world to buy this phone. As a result, when you visit São Paulo, you'll notice a large number of favelas, shanty towns, and homeless people on the streets. The city is home to some of the largest favelas in the country. One of the most well-known favelas is Heliópolis. People living in Heliópolis often face discrimination during job interviews, and the stigma against residents of these areas is not only international, it's also common within Brazil itself. Many consider places like Heliópolis to be dangerous, and visitors are often advised not to enter. If you take a closer look at these neighborhoods, you'll see a web of tangled electrical wires everywhere. In many favelas across Brazil, nights can be pitch black. However, in Heliópolis, the streets are now lit with LED lights at night, thanks to the persistent efforts of women in the community who successfully installed streetlights to improve safety and visibility after dark. Residents in São Paulo's favelas often rely on illegal electricity connections, tapping into the national grid through a complex underground network, usually controlled by various gangs. These areas receive minimal support from the government and are chronically underfunded. As a result, people often fall into desperation, and with limited options, they may come under the influence of local gangs. Favelas typically consist of two-story homes, which, unlike wealthier neighborhoods, are unpainted with exposed brick on the outside. The streets are often run down, with old, beat-up cars parked along the sides. Sanitation systems are basic. and some parts of these neighborhoods have unpleasant odors. Yet, what touches people most about these areas are the hopeful smiles on residents' faces, especially the children, who still hold tight to their dreams. Many of them dream of becoming world-class football players. In a country where football is in the blood, this isn't just wishful thinking. Both Argentina and Brazil have countless stories of legendary players who rose from favelas to become global icons. One beautiful aspect of these communities is their strong sense of unity. People are always ready to help one another and stand together against outside interference. Just about 30 years ago, very few people lived in these neighborhoods. But today, more than 200,000 people live in the favelas of São Paulo alone. These are some of the most underdeveloped parts of the city, lacking basic infrastructure. Over the past 3 decades, many people have migrated from rural parts of Brazil to major cities like São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, hoping to find work. Their intentions were sincere. They sought a better life and stable jobs to support their families. However, urban life proved to be extremely challenging, as most migrants couldn't afford rent in the city. Instead of giving up on city life, they chose to settle on vacant hillsides, building makeshift homes that eventually developed into large communities. Had they not left the countryside, they might have remained trapped in even harsher conditions. In some rural areas of Brazil, living standards are worse than those in parts of Africa. If you visit the favelas in cities like São Paulo today, you'll find areas that are highly marginalized and often perceived as dangerous. Many tourists visiting Brazil often avoid these areas due to their negative reputation. If you're a foreigner and walk into one, you'll likely attract curious stares. Locals aren't used to seeing outsiders and will want to know why you're there. It's important to note that the word favela simply means a large community to the locals. Residents of the favelas are well aware of the harsh conditions they live in, and they generally don't appreciate outsiders coming in to film or document their lives for the world to see. Many families live in such extreme poverty that they end up placing their children in long-term adoption programs in developed European countries, including Italy, in hopes of giving them a better future. The true heart of Brazil lies in Rio de Janeiro, the country's second largest city, after São Paulo. Rio de Janeiro is also the capital of the state with the same name, with a population of approximately 6.2 million people. What sets Rio apart from São Paulo is its coastal location. Residents don't need to drive far from the city center to reach the beach on weekends. Traveling between the two cities takes about 6 hours by car or 1 hour by plane. Even though they may look close on a map, Brazil is an immense country. The distance between Rio and São Paulo is roughly 500 kilometers. If you only have the chance to visit one of the two cities, Rio de Janeiro is probably the better choice. The city is famous for its vibrant entertainment scene and warm, welcoming people. One standout destination is Leblon Beach, one of the busiest beach spots in the country. No matter how far you walk along the shoreline, the crowds seem endless. Interestingly, most people don't come to the beach to swim. They come to sunbathe and hang out with friends. So you'll often see adults playing games or simply gazing out at the sea while sitting on the sand. I don't know what country you're from or what culture you're used to, but if you visit the beaches of Rio de Janeiro, be prepared to see more skin than usual. Brazilian women love being glamorous and sexy, and the beach is where they show it off most confidently. Depending on your perspective, this could either be exciting or a bit uncomfortable. And if you're visiting with a partner, be ready for some potential jealousy to pop up. Of course, the city isn't just about beaches. For instance, There's the famous Sugarloaf Mountain, Pão de Açúcar, where you can enjoy breathtaking views of Rio from above. If you're not afraid of heights, you can take a cable car ride even higher and see the entire city laid out before you. Rio is also home to one of the new 7 wonders of the world, the iconic Christ the Redeemer statue, a global symbol of Brazil. Every year in February or March, the world-famous Rio Carnival takes place right here. It's one of the largest festivals in Brazil and is known as the biggest party on earth. People from all over the world flock to Brazil to experience this colorful celebration, where samba dancing takes over the streets and the city bursts into life.